Hi everyone, how are you? I'm here in my favorite place outside. There's not a neat place in my house to make a video. No, just kidding. Or actually, not just kidding. Or just kidding. The reason I'm outside again is because it is so beautiful out here and the light is so beautiful. And also, it's messy inside. Both reasons, but mostly the light. And that's what I want to talk about today, the messy and the light of raising teenage kids. So I don't know if you guys know this, but thank God, 5 teenagers, and the house it's rocking. Some of the kids go to school out of town, some of the kids go to school here, but definitely we are in the thick of things. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I just went to my son's graduation, and I'm going to tell you about that soon. He just graduated from Waterbury Yeshiva, and that's a place for teenagers, and you've got to... everyone needs to go to a Waterbury graduation, and it's an electric event. It's the whole thing is like nothing you've ever experienced before. It's a 5-hour high school graduation that you just, I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it. But anyway, so here's this scoop. You know, teenagehood seems very threatening when you're raising teens until you realize that you weren't a perfect teen yourself. I'll tell you, my teenage years, oh my goodness, they were spent making mischief, getting detention. And then, then there's some people who just didn't do that and were really good. And then there's like another chunk of people that were really good but really miserable. Were you one of those guys, like you were the perfect teen but inside you were miserable and nobody knew it? So, and then there's the lucky few that just had a great time. So, but being a teenager, we were all there. And now, whatever's going on in the world, I cannot even offer an explanation, but we have this proliferation of diagnoses, however you say that. And now our teens don't only have to deal with teenagehood, they've got to deal with ADD and ADHD and learning disabilities and anxiety and mood disorder and mental illness and, the gamut. And that's not unusual anymore. And we could try and figure out what this means. Maybe these issues were always there and now we're just labeling them. Or maybe we're not teaching our kids right, or maybe there's pollution. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, this is the kids' reality today. It's really not easy. They don't have as much fun as we have, and they have media sucking the life out of everything on top of that if your kids are exposed to media. So it's just and the world is not the same safe place where kids could run around. My favorite teenage memory, and I can't believe this because at the time it was not my favorite teenage memory, but I want to share it with you now. So it's just an example of something a kid today would not even have. So it was, let me think, I must have been around 14. And I lost, maybe 13, 14, I lost all my friends. Like, boom, lost, gone, gone, gone. And I was part of this big group, and this big group decided I was horrible or something, and they all dumped me. It was like mass dumping. So I went from being in the in crowd to being with no crowd. And I really had no friends. And two cool things happened. One is that I ended up finding friends in the classroom. Like, I just am a social person and I needed people to hang out with. So I kind of looked around the class and saw, who else doesn't have friends, and became friends with them. So that was a really enlightening experience in itself, because usually we end up classifying people. These are my people and these are not my people. But actually, if you're a social being, you need people, and you can find so much to love about everyone and so much in common, and different people bring out different parts of you. So it was a really cool experience for me to make friends with people who I wouldn't have naturally been drawn to, but really got a lot out of those friendships. So that's step one. That was a great life skill. But number 2 is that I had no friends and I had to go places myself. So on Sundays, specifically Sundays used to be a big social day for me. And what I would do is now it wasn't, I would walk over a mile to the library, and I would sit and read books, and then I would cross the street and buy some ice cream. Then I would have ice cream and my books, and then I would just like kind of walk around and come home. And a few hours later, and it was like a nice long sweaty walk. I remember a lot of people offering me rides on the way home. And I just learned to really like my own company. As a matter of fact, now I call myself like a 2-hour extrovert. That's, I love other people, but then you know what? I really like my own company. And so, that kind of experience where you could just walk to the library on your own. I don't know about your kids, but that's not happening for my children. The world is not the same safe place, and the expectations are totally different. You're driving your kids everywhere. And I actually try to make my kids walk sometimes, but they're not walking a mile away, with great frequency. Sometimes, like a big activity, but otherwise they're not. And they're not getting that quiet time, that long bike ride time that I used to take for hours. They're just not getting it. So they're having a much more kind of uptight teenagehood. And, you got to feel for these kids. So what I really what I want to offer you is 5 tips on making it awesome. 5 tips where you can help your kids navigate these teenage years and help yourself navigate them. And it can be really, really special. One thing that I got, okay, so let me tell you about the Waterbury graduation, because that was just the epitome of everything good about chinuch and raising kids. So the kids who come to Waterbury, they pretty much, they're disenfranchised. They're not into school, they're not into Judaism, they're just not into stuff at all. And the way the school works is that they give love and they provide excellent, interesting, interactive classes, and everything is warm and personal, and you don't have to come. They just make it interesting enough that you want to come, or you don't want to come. It takes some guys a long time to come, but more than that is that they run on the idea of respecting every student. They have, they quoted this saying, I don't know if it was a quote or if it was just on an at-the-moment quote. The rabbi over there said, when you love your students, they respect you. But when you respect your students, they love you. And you can see, when we were there, we could really see how they respected every kid. Imagine this, 80 kids in the class. Every single kid, before he was called up, the Rabbi Kalish, this was Rabbi Kalish and Rabbi Overlander, gave an entire speech just about that kid. Just about that kid. But not just that. They created such a culture of respect and love for one another for these kids that most of the time when a kid was called up, every time a kid was called up, the whole place would go wild cheering like it's a rock concert for the mayor, and not just that. Most of the kids had their own chants. They would make up little songs for different little kids. At one time they mentioned one of the teachers, and they had a song for the teacher, and then they went through the whole list of 5 teachers and had a song for every one of them. Just these impromptu little songs of celebrating every single person in that yeshiva for what they have to offer. My son has a friend who never went to yeshiva. He's graduating, and he pretty much, more or less did not show up at all. It was in the environment, but it never quite clicked for him. And you know what? When the rabbi came up and he gave his kid hugs and kisses, and he said in the speech before he called him up, he said, do you know what we value in this yeshiva? We value independence. And there's someone here who has a wonderful independent spirit, and they give so much, and they this and that. And he called up this kid for his independent spirit. You know what? That is a lot of independence, to go through 4 years and resist all this love and all this positive energy. Not totally resisted. He came back, and he, had good friends. And I'm sure that the things that need to sink in more deeply will sink in after he leaves the yeshiva. But it was just blew me away how they celebrated every single child. And he said to the crowd, he said, people say they think that we are a yeshiva for people with challenges. He said, we're not. We're a yeshiva for people. And people have challenges, only we're not scared to talk about them. So I thought that was absolutely awesome. And I thank Hashem that my son was able to go there. So much more to say about Waterbury, but that's not what this talk is about. So what it really is about is being smart and loving your kid and loving yourself. So the first thing is that we're human. And being a human being means that you have feelings too. And that means when your kids are, not being the quintessential good boy and girl, it can get you really, stuff starts happening inside of you. I have a friend who has a very negative daughter. and she's a very positive person. It's actually a total mystery, like where this streak of negativity is coming from, but it's just something that this kid has to battle. And when I'm with my friend, I'm just amazed, because I would get sucked into wanting to fix the negativity or diffuse it or something. And my friend, she just stays in her place. She has a happy place. She's just going to stay steady, and it takes a lot of inner strength. But the thing is that what we've got to learn as parents is a certain amount of healthy distance, that our kids have their challenges and we have our challenges, and the last thing that they need is for us to kind of engage with their challenges, so to speak, to get really deep in there and engage, because at some level this is something that they have to work through. And for us, we need to be the parent, and to be the parent means to work through the things that we need to work through, which is being a solid, happy, present person who's deeply invested in their spirituality and growth, and we don't have to go in there and fix and diffuse every bit of negativity and rebellion. What our kids really want from us is to stay solid. And we're going to talk about being flexible, because there's a way of being solid and being flexible. But the first thing we got to know is that we're human. Things affect us. We need to nurture ourselves and get whatever we need to just feel, what's that word? Uplifted, even if the teens aren't making you feel too uplifted at this exact moment. And also to stay in your adult self, to understand that your solidity as a human being means a lot. And kids, teenagers especially, they're so strong, they're so persuasive, their energy is it's like fireball energy, even when it's quiet. It's just a teenager is, it's what's that called? Energy without form, because they're not fully formed yet. So it's just energy, and if you pick up that energy and you make it your own, and you let that pull you and tug you, if you let it kind of sway you from your place, then you're going to feel really lost and out of sorts, and like your head is spinning and you can't make this child happy, and you'll just be spinning. What you really want is to understand that that's their energy, but you'll contain their energy for them by staying in your energy of a parent. Okay, so that is the first thing, which is you're human, nurture yourself, stay solid as a parent, both of those. Now, the thing is that we want to see this time in their life as an opportunity for us. A lot of people kvetch about their kids being teenagers, and you might even be taking everything that I'm saying and filtering it through the lens of kvetch. Oh no, let's talk about how hard our teenagers are, and but think for real. Teenagers give us so much joy because they have all this energy. Everything is in potential. The world is possible. You can when you inspire a teenager, oh my gosh, they're inspired to the moon. Their feelings are so passionate. And think about it. When we grow up, what do we get? We get sedentary in our thinking. We get sedentary in our feelings. We kind of are in danger of falling into the death of adulthood. That drudgery of adulthood where, okay, this is who I am, and I will, this is how I feel about things, and this is what I like to do and don't like to do. And teenagers push you to do more. So there's such an opportunity here, even for you, to access those stretched part of yourselves and to do things that you weren't able to do as a teenager, because we all want to give our kids more than we have. So sometimes we try to compensate and open up and do things a little bit differently from our parents, and then our kids actually respond to that, and then they're ready for more, and then they demand more from us. They want us to play their games with them, or get interested in what they're interested in, and it can be a real stretch for us, but that is such an opportunity to stay young. The other opportunity is to become an unconditional giver, and I think that specifically parents who have teens that give them a really hard time, or I shouldn't even say it like that are really challenging, they stretch us to be better givers, and that's really what we want. We think that we want easy street, but we don't. What we really want is to be great, and in order to be great, we've got to work for it. And teens make us work for it. They make us push beyond what is truly natural. Okay, so with that framework, I want to talk about tip number 2. So tip number 2 is give them space. I'm gonna put this down for a minute. Give them space. Space. Space is such an amazing thing. Space. We all need space to grow. You know, I'll tell you a story. This is a story from when I was maybe in 9th grade. And it's a story of a little bit of space. So, and a little bit of teenagehood. So, I think when I was much younger, I got this horrible haircut. I'm sure you've all gotten one absolutely horrible haircut, right? So there I was with this horrible haircut and every day obsessing about it for about 1.5 years till it finally grew out. And there it was grown out, and I was sitting in class one day and I was thinking, oh my gosh, you know, you pull your bangs, and I was like, wow, they're finally down to my nose. You know what? Now I could cut the hair, and I'll just cut it all to that length, and I'll have normal hair again, and it will all be one length. And I didn't really realize that if like my bangs are down to my nose, that feels really long. But if the rest of my hair is down to my nose, that is really short. So it was after school. I took these my friends, basically my whole class out to the backyard of the school, in the school playground, and I pretty much had what we call an upsharing. I said, okay, everybody can take a snip, and they start snipping my hair, and then they leave, and it's already like 4:30, 5 o'clock. The playground is empty. One girl stays. She's like, I know how to cut hair. So it's the weirdest scene in the universe. It's a school playground, and there's just hair falling on the floor, and these 2 high school girls, not knowing what in the world they're doing, snipping, and I'm watching this hair fall, and there's something very adventurous about it, so I'm having a good time. The hair is falling, my friend is done, and when my friend is cutting, and when we are done, I look like, how do you ever hear of a bowl haircut? If this is like, you know, if that's outdated for you, a bowl haircut is, imagine a bowl's on top of your head and then you cut around it. That's pretty much what it looked like. There I was with like hair up to here. Oh my gosh. So I thanked my friend, and then I looked in the mirror, and then I freaked out. I mean, if I thought that earlier haircut was bad, this was beyond bad. This was like so bad. I didn't even know what to do. I couldn't even go home. So I went to my friend's house, and there I looked for some hats. And in the way that 8th or 9th graders do, I figured I'll hide it from my mother. I'll just wear a hat. And, you know, 9th graders don't have too many hats. So I'm trying on baseball caps and berets. And what does she have? I just need a hat. If I just had a hat, maybe it could look cute. I would have little hair sticking out. I don't know. Anyway, I leave my friend's house. I don't know what to do. I come home. It's 8 o'clock at night. My mother picks me up. She takes one look at me. And you know what she says? Nothing. She said nothing. Could you imagine? That woman is a righteous woman. She said nothing. She could have said a million things, and I could see by her face that she was upset. She was really upset. But she knew that there was nothing to say. The haircut was already cut. To punish me, I already had my punishment. To make me feel bad, it was a really dumb move, and I really didn't need to feel any dumber. And she totally got that. But not just that, I really was going crazy. I mean, me with the hair up to here, forget it. And a few weeks later, I was flipping through a magazine, and at the back, if you ever seen one of these magazines, they have these really weird ads that nobody ever looks at, but you know, I was looking at them, and there's this picture of this woman with like hair, you know, coming down, and it said, with this special cream, your hair will grow 2 inches in a week. Just order our special cream. And I was like, this is the answer to my prayers. Mommy, can I buy this? Can I buy this? I must have this. I must have this. And anyone in their right mind knows that that cream does not work. I mean, I don't know what it is, but your hair's not growing 2 inches in a week or something. So she said, like, she questioned me, and then she's like, all right, if you really want it. And we were not a family that gave out money a lot, but she wrote me out a check. I mailed this into the magazine to get this special magic cream that was going to grow my hair back. And I remember when it came, it was like a big celebration because my special cream for my hair came, and I put it on and I waited for my hair to grow. And by that time, whatever, I guess I just got used to having a head that looked like a bowl for a couple of months. But the point of that story is that there was a lot of space in it, a lot of space. Somewhere I had the mental space to like do something crazy. Somewhere I had the space to deal with my own consequences. I had the space to experiment with something new and realize that things are gimmicks. It wasn't like my mother had to tell me and felt like, and I might make this mistake sometimes, just telling my kids, no, that's definitely not going to work. That's just a scam. Don't do that. Sometimes kids need space to experiment on their own and to see what works. And to be 14, we know a lot of things when we're 30 and 40 and 50, but who cares? It doesn't matter what you know because someone told you. It matters what you know because you experienced it. That's how you learn for the rest of your life. Now I know what a gimmick is. I wouldn't know if I hadn't tried out that lemon cream, that magic lemon cream. I just wouldn't even know. Kids need space to be 14. On the flip side of that, I once had a pitiful, pathetic conversation with a certain member of an institution where my nephew went to study Torah. And, Torah institutions are pretty serious places, but this place, it didn't give space. I mean, this boy was a gem, nice, kind to everyone, a spirit. This nephew just makes everything better, He just reaches out to people with a great smile. He's got a sharp brain. He's super sharp. I mean, he's actually, he's a lawyer now. He's a super sharp kid and a teacher and a giver. And the member of the administration was upset because he said, he's really a great kid and he gives so much here and he's doing so well in his studies all the way till 4 o'clock. Then at 4 o'clock, he just goes crazy. And he goes on his rollerblades and he's going around, the yeshiva in his rollerblades. And it's just not what, he just can't be doing that. This is not a place for rollerblades. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I want to like shake someone because here you have a kid, he has so much energy. It's so much good energy. And isn't that a wonderful thing? Get on your rollerblades, get out there, zoom around a couple of 100 times, and use your energy. And then you're like focused and you're ready to get back into class. It just makes so much sense. Just deal with the kid. But no, there was no space for the child to be a child. There had to be like this grown-up who just was able to concentrate, from 9 to 5. I mean, even grown-ups can't do that. It just makes me crazy what we expect of children. So eventually he did leave that yeshiva, and then he even had a few years where he wasn't doing Judaism at all, because when you're so stuffed into a box like that, when you don't have space to just be a person, to just be and go through the types of experiences that are appropriate for a teenagehood, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to buy into a system that doesn't buy into you at all. I heard some amazing advice years ago, and at the time, I didn't totally get it. Now I get it. At the time, I was like, seriously, what? This was advice that was given to my sister. She was, she had a daughter, and her daughter's shirts were so tight. They were like unattractively tight, and she just didn't quite know what to do with it. The daughter was covering her collar, covering her elbows. I'm sorry, it's so noisy out here. Try to talk a little louder. She was dressing, so to speak, sneeze, but these shirts were ridiculously tight. You ever see someone wear just a shell without a cover-up? It's not very attractive. So she didn't know what to do, and she was just trying to navigate this without putting her kid down. And she spoke to a certain Rebbitzin here, and the Rebbitzin told her, leave it. This isn't a matter of Judaism. This is a matter of maturity. she's just got to mature and realize that's really not attractive. And it says that's not dignified, that's not lovely. Right now, she's too young. She doesn't realize that. Don't make a whole fight with her about the tightness of her shirt. She'll mature into it. And this was not a cool modern Rebbetzin. This was a very serious woman who's connected to the yeshiva here. Just let the kid grow up and go through their stages of maturity. That's just what we need to do. We need to give our kids space. Let's see what else we got going on. Yeah. Okay. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is about joy. And this is specifically about the idea about wanting your kids to stay what we call on the derech, to stay with their Judaism or with their spirituality, to really buy into these beautiful truths. And how do you do that? What's the ultimate key? Well, the ultimate key is shalom bayis, and that is for an entire another discussion because it's just worthy of its own discussion. We'll touch on that for a moment now. And the key that we're going to talk about today is simcha, which is joy. So shalom bayis means peace in the home. Not feeling very peaceful with this noisy garbage truck, but hopefully soon it'll go. Oh, it's going. Bye-bye. Ah, that was noisy. Okay, thank you guys. So the ultimate key is shalom bayis. Let's start with that. Parents treating each other, you know why it's hard for me to talk about it? Because it's so important and so many people don't have it. And sometimes I'm just like, help, I don't want to like give a talk and make people in pain. But but it's the truth. So I guess we've got to go with the truth. The truth is that the ultimate key is having a beautiful marriage. That's the ultimate key to your children's success, is loving and respecting your husband, your wife, communicating beautifully, respectfully, making time for each other, not arguing, not bringing conflict into the family, not polarizing when it comes to your kids. And certainly there's, very often we're going to filter things differently, so you're going to think differently about your kids, but not to come out as two different, like, what do you call that? Like two different opinions, that your kid knows mom is like this, dad is like this, where a kid can triangulate and play one parent against another. What really a child wants most deeply is to just have parents who love each other, who get along. And that is the foundation for everything. That's what gives a child security. That is the backdrop for all their teenage mischief, their teenage anxiety, their learning disabilities, their ADD. They can get through all that when they have a strong foundation of parents who love each other and who love them. So that is the true key. And on that note, God willing, in August, I'll be giving a class called How to Have the Romance of a Lifetime, where I'll offer you some ways of really getting that that kind of marriage that is such a support, such a foundational support for every single one of your children's happiness and for your happiness. So stay tuned for that. I'll mention it here, but also you'll just come look on rivkamalka.com and you'll see more information about that. And in that class, I'm not going to be scared. That class, we're going to really get into the nitty-gritty interactions and the nitty-gritty kind of philosophy about how to have the romance of a lifetime, not just to be married, not just to live in the same house, not just to raise the same kids, not just to pay the same bills, but to really build intimacy and safety and communication in your life and your marriage. And we're going to do that. Okay, so that is shalom bayis. If you want your kids to love their Judaism, it's got to be fun. It's got to be a pleasure. And number one, that means it's got to be a pleasure for you. If it's a pain in the neck for you, it's going to be a pain in the neck for them. Every single thing you grumble about, they will grumble about. I've seen kids who are scared of our dog. Our dog is the smallest, fluffiest, little, whitest, pretty much non-barking little toy. And You have kids who are scared of it because as their parents pass by us, their parents tense up. And when their parents tense up, they're sending a message of fear to the kids, and that's it. The kid becomes scared of dogs. There's nothing to be scared of. It's a little fluffy stuffed animal. Everything that we feel gets transferred onto our kids. If we feel like it's a pain in the neck, our kids are gonna feel like it's a pain in the neck. If we feel like it's hard, like it's oppressive, if we feel uptight about things, nobody wants to be connected to anything that's uptight. We want space, we want fun, we want freedom, we want to enjoy. We want things to be a pleasure. So if you want Judaism to be like something that your kids take with them beyond the rules of your home for their entire life, it's got to be a pleasure. It's got to be fun. You know, it has to be that way. That means that when Purim comes, you don't get all uptight about the lists and about the themes and about getting it right and about delivering to the right people. It should be fun. In our family, we make hamantash, and you know, our teenagers have been more or less interested in their spiritual growth at different points in their life, but they all love when I make hamantash, and not just to eat them, because we put on the music and we sing and the whole table's a mess and we're rolling out the dough, and who cares, honestly, if they're going to fall in love with the yontif that year? What we want for them is to love it for their whole lives. And what they're going to take with them is that singing and that joy and those cookies. And the same thing for Pesach. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be constraining. There can be joy, there can be music, and there should be. We should create as many opportunities as we can for adding the element of fun to every single Shabbos table, to every holiday. It's like, you know, I'll tell you something. I'm really into Dressing Your Truth. Dressing Your Truth is a super cool system. You're welcome to look it up. And it basically teaches you how to dress according to your energy type. And this has been the greatest tool for helping kids beat tznius as well. Tznius is modest. So, you know, usually when we try to get kids to dress modestly, we're focused on what they should and shouldn't wear, what they can and can't wear. And that's just like a horrible place to focus. It's such a horrible place. I'm still traumatized to this day by, like, I'm not even gonna say, you know, I'm not gonna go back to the trauma of, you know, teachers who point out what kids are wearing. I cannot even understand that, because, you know, in a child's mind, a teacher represents God. Like, that's God, if, you know, and there you are telling me I'm bad, telling me I'm wrong, looking at me in a nitpicky way. Thank you, but no thank you. So back to the more positive. So Dressing Your Truth teaches you how to dress according to your energy type, which is so much fun, and gives you the colors and helps you understand yourself. And really, it's not just like pasting a couple of colors on you, here's what looks good. It's really understanding what works for you. You could look up on YouTube how Dressing Your Truth changed my life. I have that video up, and I really describe it there a lot, and I have a link right under there to the right link for Dressing Your Truth. Okay, so what is awesome about this is that our conversation in our family has completely changed, because tznius, yes, we know those rules, but here's another fun thing. I want all my girls to dress in a way that makes them glow. That's the right look for them, that really looks good on them. So with Dressing Your Truth, we're able to change the conversation from tznius to not tznius to what really makes you glow. And it's much more fun to go shopping because the child understands that they're being celebrated. There's something fun here. There's something that I'm honoring and respecting about them and loving about them, and I want them to look like them. I'm not just trying to get them to stick to a certain set of rules. The rules are, of course, they're like an obvious framework, but a kid's allowed to feel pretty. A kid should feel pretty. A kid should feel like they can be an individual. And bringing that kind of joy of looking awesome, which is so important for a girl, has really changed the conversation, where I could, you know, just guide a child towards themselves. And shopping can be really fun, even with a teenager that has different ideas, because you're in it for them. So that is like bringing the element of joy to all the mitzvahs and to everything that you do is a total game changer in terms of getting kids to buy in and participate. And honestly, you've got to get some perspective. It doesn't matter if they love it now, you know, with my hamantash making. So it used to be the whole family would do it. Well, then the kids grew up. The older teens, they're not so interested, but they're still hearing it. I give a lot of weight to background noises. You know, background noises are the noise of your life, the soundtrack of your life, so to speak. It's actually a really fun thing to think about. What is the soundtrack of your life? What are the things that you listen to? What are the conversations that are going on? Because these are the things that filter in, you know, conscious things are in a way less impactful than unconscious things. The unconscious is bringing in this soundtrack of your child's life and of your life, of course, all the time. Is it screaming parents? Is it happy parents? Is it joyous Judaism? Is it nervous, uptight, in a hurry, got to get it done, fearful Judaism? This is all the soundtrack that's going on. So in a big way, in a way that I don't think we give enough credit for, it doesn't matter if they participate or not. It matters, of course, to a degree, but what really matters is what are the sounds that are going on in your house about your Judaism, about these topics. What does the Shabbos table sound like? You know, because a kid could be angry and not want to show up, right, at a Shabbos table, but you want them to still know that a Shabbos table is a place for them to be. Maybe they're not up to it that second, but that's a happy place to be, and that they're going to take with them for their whole life, and they may even pick up the ball the next week. Who knows, you know? But the soundtrack of their life is so critical, and we're looking for instant results. Sorry to say, not we. Maybe you're not. A lot of us, it's natural, it's human to look for instant results, but it's not instant. And Rabbi Kalish, back to that Waterbury graduation, he said something so amazing. He said, you're looking at these kids and you see their black pants and their white shirt and they're all put together and they've got it and it's like success. Waterbury is a success. He said, when people say that, they tell me, 10th grade, not so happening. By 12th grade, oh, these boys are so successful. He says, those people are making a huge mistake. No. Do you know what success is? Success is 10th grade. Success is when the kid has long hair and he's fighting it out and he's trying not to smoke pot and he's working through his issues and he's fighting to come to davening and he's fighting to do learning and he's working on his midos and everything that he does is a struggle and he's fighting through it. That's what success is. That's what we want to take for our whole life, that we're always fighting to grow. And he said, you look at this end result, this is superficial. We're very happy that they look all neat and clean and put together. That's nice. But that's not what the success is. Success is a life of fighting and struggling. And so, and obviously overcoming. So, you know, when we look for success, sometimes what we're looking for is the perfect child. Well, that's not success. You know, success is a family that is fighting for good communication, for deeper relationships, for an authentic Judaism, and growing and climbing and grappling with the real issues of life. You know, if we want just a perfectly dressed, perfectly well-behaved child, we could get a paper doll and we could cut it out. And you know what you could do then? You could put on any clothes that you want on it. And then that child will be showing up just right. Hooray! But you don't want that. You know, more than anything, you want a real child, not a Pinocchio child. To be real has its struggles. And the fuel to power struggles is joy. Child needs to have joy in their life, joy in their family, joy in their mitzvot, to give them motivation that this is worth it. That's what's coming out at the end. You know, imagine someone ran a big race and then they crossed the finish line, and as they crossed the finish line, someone said, okay, great, now go to your office 9 to 5. No. What happens when a person crosses the finish line is that there's a massive celebration. So these kids need to understand that they're going to have their fights. They're going to have to run that race and do that marathon and sweat and have their feet hurt and their hands hurt and their heart pound. But when they cross that finish line, when they do invest in their Judaism, when they get there, what is there? There is joy. There's a celebration across the finish line. If they don't see that from us and from your family, from the parents, then what is the motivation to cross that line? Where are they seeing, like, yes, I want to fight through this. I want this to be all worth it. Number 4, we have number 4. We'll see if we'll do number 5. So number 4 is believe in them, and this is very related to the last topic of seeing 10th grade end of fight as a success, because we need clarity. We want to put things in boxes. So we say our kid is doing well or our kid is doing not well. He's inspired or he's uninspired. She's depressed, she's not depressed. She's a giver, she's selfish. It's a horror, the kind of labels that we put on our kids. And I'm not talking about the labels that we say, I'm talking about the labels in our mind. This child is doing this, but this child is this, and we categorize them, and it's actually a way of coping with life. But it's tremendously harmful. Because what we're talking about here is neshamos. We're talking about souls. And the soul, every single soul, even a child who's struggling, even a teenager who's moody, has a connection with Hashem. And don't we dare underestimate that connection. Don't underestimate it. You can't know the infinite holiness of your child. It's there. Believe in it. Once my son, one year, my son was having a hard time, and he wasn't going to davening or anything. He wasn't going to prayers, and that was okay. We were supporting him wherever he was. And then one day he shocked me. He totally shocked me. He said to me, "Yeah, I've only davened twice," and I was just kind of quiet. I thought it was a little sad that he only went to davening twice. Okay. And then he started to explain to me. He said, yeah, one time something was on my mind, and I poured my heart out to Hashem, and et cetera, et cetera. And what came out was, and this is just so amazing, what came out was that it wasn't that he only went to davening twice that year. It's that he only had what he would consider davening twice that year, which means an authentic, outpouring, connected discussion with God. And I'm thinking, my son, who barely shows up to davening, knows that what davening really means is a real discussion with Hashem. And how many teenagers will show up to davening 1,000 times in a row and never have that conversation? How amazing is he? How amazing is he that he understands that that's a real davening? It opened my eyes to believe in him at a whole nother level, to not underestimate him and his capacity to understand. The story has a bitter ending, because when he left Mincha, he left the prayers, he saw someone, an authority figure in the hallway, and this authority figure did what we all do sometimes. My son couldn't resist sharing, even though he's a very private person. He shared, I just had a really good davening. And the person said to him, good, I'm proud of you. See you here, hope to see you here tomorrow. And my son was like, just, that spark was tamped out, because we'll do that. We'll make it about quantity versus quality. We'll just say, okay, now you're on your way to perfect. Good for you. Do more, do more, do more. Instead of just believing in them, that they have it and they will get it more and more if we continue to believe in them. It just is so, these kids surprise us, They surprise us, and think of, and then my son, that same son, he has a mentor named Akiva. Akiva Balsam is an incredible person. And even when he wasn't so interested in learning, you know what Akiva bought him? And I was so jealous. I told my son, I'm so jealous because Akiva knows what presents to buy you, and I cannot figure out presents for people. He bought him some Malcolm Gladwell book, like a self-development book. And my son loved it. He ate it up. I saw he's been carrying it around. And I was so, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. Like, we've made success so narrow that it's only if you're learning this amount of time, davening this amount of time, behaving this exact way, that we count that as development. But there's a whole world, there's this whole internal world of a child, and they're, all roads lead home, but there's a lot of different roads. And just a self-development book, I mean, the kid still has a brain. Sometimes just because the kid's not learning Torah, you're like, oh, okay, so, or he's laying at home all day, or he's depressed, or he's staying at the movies, or he's just hanging out with friends all day. Feed the child where he's at. Believe in him. There's a whole person there. I don't know. I was just amazed at this gift, and it opened my eyes to remind me to see the whole child and believe in them. And this same kid, I mean, I'm crazy about all my kids. This one happens to be the most teenager of teenagers. He's absolutely incredible, and he's teaching me a lot. So what did I just want to tell you about him? Oh man, I can't remember what I was going to tell you. I'll tell you a point of pride. Tell you that he came home Pesach time, and he was looking for work. And one thing that, every family is different, but we feel that you need to have certain lines that are very important to your family. So one of our top family values is family, and that means that even though he wants to hang out with his friends, and even though he wants to go work, and even though we give him a lot of space to do his process and to be himself, where we'll kind of draw the line and say no, like, where we'll be willing to fight it out is when it comes to showing up for family gatherings, like big ones, like Hanukkah, Shabbos Hanukkah, or Pesach Passover. That's where we really, get pretty serious. And even preparing for Passover is a very important time in our family. We have a lot of fun. It's a teamwork effort. We don't want our kids to just be away for that and just show up for the Seder. So he's a big entrepreneur. He would have loved to have gotten a job, and we told him, no, like, you got to come home. So we'll try to find you a job here. And we didn't have to find him a job because Hashem did it all for us. And basically there was a Orthodox man here running for city council, is it? I think it's city council was the position, I'm not sure. And he had a campaign manager, and the campaign manager is a wonderful friend named Nisa Phelps, and she broke her knee. And so just a few weeks before the big voting, which is a very important vote for our community, she was laying on the couch. She couldn't move. She couldn't go running out flyers. She couldn't stand by the voting booths, nothing. So my son came, and she gave him the job. And then he did such a fantastic job that Yitzi Schleifer, who was the candidate who won, kept giving him more and more jobs, and other people also hired him. And soon, in those 2 weeks, like a week and a half, he was recruiting and managing 42 volunteers around the clock, going house to house, delivering papers, standing at their booths. I mean, it was crazy. Delivering drinks, delivering food to people who were standing there. So much work he did, and he just showed up magnificently. And if we would only tie success to the things that we look at as successful, we wouldn't allow space for amazing things to happen, like for a child to realize that he can be an entire campaign manager. So that's that. I want to finish up this video, and there's so much more to say. And sometimes, even though I'm talking to all of you out there, I can't wait to speak to you in person, because I feel like if we had a heart-to-heart connection, many more truths would come spilling out. When I'm sitting here and I'm speaking to a video, usually it's very easy for me because I'm thinking of my audience. I'm imagining faces of people. I'm imagining other moms. I'm imagining families everywhere, and I'm grateful because I've gotten messages and feedback and emails from you and comments, and I really appreciate it. So I know that you are real people listening to this. But this topic, when it comes to raising children and marriage, it is much harder for me to speak about on camera because it's so deep. And I'm giving you these bites of information, and I really do want your feedback if this has been helpful, because part of me just feels like, oh no, I'm not saying enough. I'm not saying what I really want to say, I really want us to, to have like ease and flexibility and enjoy our kids and give them a break and give ourselves a break and keep the whole thing light and honest and communicative. And I'm having a hard time today really getting that across in this forum. And I hope that my message came through and it didn't feel like 40 minutes of just hearing me talk. That is the message, is like to hold on to your hat, to use this time as an opportunity to enjoy your kids, to give them space to grow up, to believe in them, and to just put on your glasses of, hey, this is all pretty normal. If something's not normal, you're probably paying $1 million and hiring a therapist, and that's also normal these days. It's all normal. It's all good. And our kids need us to be happy. They need us to be stable. They need us to maintain stability and good relationships, and they need us to let them have the space to grow up. So hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you have a beautiful Shabbos with your families, and that you enjoy your teenagers, and that you just have a blessed Shabbos. Bye-bye.